I love your home already, and I haven't even seen it. Does that sound crazy? It's not. When we improve our surroundings, we simultaneously empower ourselves, which means every inch of space within your reach right now is an opportunity to tell the story you want to be living. Tell me that's not its own kind of wonderful. I have spent the last 15 years consulting clients and their homes through the wisdom of Feng Shui, intentional design, and some crystal clear communication. And you know what happens when you bring those three together? Life-changing magic. Your home is already in a conversation with you, so why not learn how to merge that awareness with some simple, straightforward, and smart action to co-create the life you want? I'm Amanda Gibby Peters, and I am here to help you learn how. Welcome to House Therapy. So today's episode was inspired by a question that landed in my DMs a couple months ago. And I'm answering it outside of our Q&A episode because it really gets to the studs of so many important parts of this practice. So here was the message. Feng Shui has always been very intriguing to me since I was young. The funny thing is, the last decade of my life, I did my best to let go of any superstitious beliefs because I found them to be limiting. Now, finding an interest in Feng Shui again, I realize how much of it can feel very superstitious. Although logically, all the quote unquote rules make sense, fix the leaks, get rid of stagnation, etc. I'm just curious what your take on this is if you feel like sharing. So buckle up, Buttercup. I've got an answer for you. First things first. I love any time this practice feels a little superstitious, and not because I am a superstitious person by nature. The origins of Feng Shui carry a lot of superstition, so it is important, I think, that it is present in the way some of its wisdom and insights translate. To me, that registers as the lineage coming through, and I so strongly believe that it is important to the practice, that its ancestry is coming through. That said, thousands of years gone by and hundreds, if not more, interpretations mean there's more spirit of the law and practice than letter of the law now. So when someone feels resistance to this wisdom and its concepts, I like to bring up a few modern day interpretations of our spaces that I feel echo Feng Shui, but because they don't lead with it, are generally metabolized without much question. So 1, behavioral science. They have found that the buildings we're in affect our bodies and our brains. They assert that this influences us because the thoughts we're having often will determine our feelings. Our feelings hold a lot of persuasion over our moods. Mood will drive behavior, and behavior certainly mixes into the decisions we're making, and those decisions often lead to a set of outcomes or our life experiences. There is also the study of biophilia being defined as an innate or genetically determined affinity that human beings have with the natural world. So, what do either of those have to do with our conversation? Well, when you think about it, both are an intentional approach to our environment that can reduce stress, improve cognitive function, enhance our creativity, improve our well-being, expedite healing. Are you sensing a theme yet? Our surroundings matter. Now, as a practitioner, I have conversations with potential clients and collaborators that will often land on this. Don't you think Feng Shui really comes down to being just a mind thing, as in because you think it's going to have an effect, it works? Which feels to me like the other side of superstition, right? And in this line of questioning, the reassurance sought is that Shui isn't really supernatural or irrational or fate. Now, I'm going to quickly pause here in my explanation and say that sometimes some of the suggestions I shared do feel like I'm asking you to trust in magic and chance. But for me, it's not magic so much as it is there's an energy we are working with that we're just beginning to sort of understand. Just like we have faith in certain things we can't completely explain logically, I believe there is energy within our reach to work with that we don't have to understand for it to trigger results. One of my all time favorite quotes touching on this comes from Maya Angelou. She said, "Words are things, I'm convinced. You must be careful about the words you use or the words you allow to be used in your house. Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. They get on the walls, they get in your wallpaper, they get in your rugs, in your upholstery, and your clothes, and finally into you." She's really tapping into the energy here that I'm referring, that our choices, they all matter energetically. There is a wisdom in that energy that we just don't fully comprehend yet. So back to this superstition, mind over matter, and for the sake of bringing this all together, let's take another look at sitting in command position, because in my world, this is one suggestion really worth getting right. So let's suppose after you've read or been told by your friendly Shui practitioner that it can help you see opportunity coming so you're able to take advantage of the moment. You might feel compelled to give it a try, right? But like anything we don't understand or pay attention to, we might forget why we did it or maybe decide, that's just superstition. It doesn't really have an effect or work. So how about a peek from my side of this conversation? It is often when my clients move themselves out of command, say for the ease of a room redesign, that they call me wondering why it feels like problems are suddenly coming out of nowhere. And to be clear, this call usually comes a few months after the move or change. So they're not thinking about their desk positioning when they SOS me. Instead, they're wrapped up in the details of what's going wrong in their lives right now, and they want a quick fix to problems like projects have suddenly stalled and they're hitting a wall in business or with their clients or just moving forward in general. Sometimes they're being subjected to unexpected criticism and it doesn't seem to be letting up. Sometimes they have this pervading sense of vulnerability or exposure, like they're lacking the necessary protection to make some bold changes, or protection that maybe they took for granted is now in question. And opportunities that they've been vying for are slipping by, or opportunities that they felt they had a hold of are slipping away. A quick note here, too, this concept of command pulls from the origins of Feng Shui. However, the languaging around consequences for not being in command were communicated in far more severe languaging. And that languaging today is where that superstition and fear like to commingle. Okay, so back to this peek inside my world. So the challenges I just shared are a handful of examples my clients have actually come to me with over the years, but the hallmarks are usually the same. There's been a sudden reversal of fortune or ease, and they just want a shui infusion. And the first thing I typically ask about or check, bed and desk positioning. Are they still in command? And a lot of the time, nope. This happens so much more than you'd think. But the good news is once we correct it, things start to balance out in their lives again. So I will tell you what I tell them. Command isn't a superstition, and it isn't just a mind thing. It actually is a wiring thing. When we sit or sleep without a view of the door, our subconscious, through no conscious effort on our part, keeps an eye open for potential threats. We are hardwired for survival, and without view of incoming energy, the warrior within is going to hover on alert. Now, If this were merely a short-term situation, say a temporary office situation or a hotel stay, it wouldn't have as great as an effect. However, when our subconscious lives on guard day after day or night after night, an energetic erosion happens. It starts subtly, but over time, we start noticing or feeling that wear and tear. Out of command, you see, we're essentially trying to do two things at the same time. One, whatever the task is at hand, so working or maybe sleeping. And two, staying safe. And again, I can't stress this enough. The whole survival piece isn't a conscious decision, but nonetheless, it does create chronic and pervasive decision fatigue over time. And that's how, out of command, we stop noticing opportunities or problems on approach. Why it feels like things suddenly are coming out of nowhere. How our energy might feel more sensitive to criticisms and feedback. And why we might eventually notice this exhaustion or feeling unsettled or uneasy. Part of our energy is distracted every day in an effort to keep us safe, and that interference adds up. Put yourself in command, though, and all your energy is at your service. So maybe your mind gets involved, but living and working in spaces that are truly optimized for us physically and psychologically feel better. And that is how Shui makes everything in our lives a little bit easier. So rounding back to the superstition cue. Feng Shui pulls from years of observation of natural phenomena, essentially how the cosmos and the earth interact. So think of it like highly detailed notes on patterns in nature. Just like you would be affected by a gushing flood coming down your street, when energy mimics that flow around our home, maybe because of a busy road, let's say, we will feel similar effects. Opportunities might disperse before we can get a hold of them. There could be a level of exhaustion that can wear us down, and eventually our immune system feels that. Or it can leave us feeling like we want or what we need is getting away from us. And the way those potential consequences are communicated, well, in the old languaging, they'll often carry a severe tone of loss, and that severity is what makes the superstitious nature feel, as in this cue, it was described, limiting or even like, no thanks. So here's my take. If what you're reading or hearing is rooted in foreboding fear, it's absolutely okay to pass. Again, once we understand what the suggestion or guidance is actually trying to communicate, that fear will usually subside. But when I come across anything that I don't understand and it heightens my anxiety, it's just not for me. I love the superstitious realm of Feng Shui, but when the language or suggestions are cloaked with fear, I'm going to pass every single time. And this is not out of disrespect. Rather, it's acknowledging that, as in any other energetic language or field, we are always evolving, just like Feng Shui has for thousands of years. And what once was available to us, well, it's proliferated. We have oodles of options today for learning how to feel better, live better, and deliberately co-create our own world. So many options, in fact, that Feng Shui isn't the only consideration on the table when we want to trigger change or influence a positive outcome. So why dance with fear when, simply being out in the world creates enough of that for us? We're all humans here, having experiences, and no amount of anything is going to protect us from learning and growing. Instead, I am more interested in helping people create the environments where the good more naturally flourishes, and that the bad, when it shows up, doesn't pour itself a drink and get itself too comfy. And in my experience, all it takes is a few conversations before the common sense commences and the synchronicities of this practical magic begin. And that's our episode, my loves. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to head over to simpleshui.com if you're craving a bigger serving of house love. And if you like what you're hearing, I hope you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what you're learning, will you leave me a review? Your note will totally make my day and help even more people find the show. Have a fabulous day, and I can't wait to meet you back here next week.